Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. On my final recording here at eLive 2023. That's Ellucian Live, New Orleans, Louisiana. What a week it has been of networking, idea sharing, talking about the future of higher education. And there's no better way to end a smorgasbord of recording 20 plus episodes here on the EdUp Experience podcast than with one of the most important departments for our students, which is financial aid. And I've brought on an old colleague of mine. I say old, she's super young, and I'm super young and in shape and in the best. I'm in peak physical condition, obviously, but I brought an old colleague of mine. We used to work together a long time ago. I actually know her husband and everything, and we saw each other. It's like, wait a minute, I know you, you know me. Let's go on. You're doing important work, and I'm going to bring her on right now. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen. She is Jessica Ibrahim. She's Executive Director of Financial Aid at Naropa University. What's up?
Thanks for having me, Joe. I appreciate it.
We have known each other for like 15 years, probably.
That's correct.
And you're still in Colorado at Naropa University.
That's right, in Boulder.
In Boulder. So tell us, let's assume somebody hasn't heard about Naropa University. Let's level set. Tell us about Naropa. What will we need to know? What do you guys do? How do you do it?
Absolutely. So we're a private nonprofit, 4-year university. We have traditional undergrad, but most of our focus is on non-traditional undergrad and graduate students. We're actually about 70% grad and 30% undergrad, which is unique for a lot of schools. And then we also have a single certificate program. And then we've got some non-degree programs as well. And we're kind of doing a pilot for psychedelic assisted therapy.
Psychedelic assisted therapy.
That's right. So
there's no place like Colorado.
No place like Colorado. That's right. So that's kind of our non-degree side. And we really focus in mindfulness-based education. So contemplative education is weaved into every aspect of what we do at Naropa. So it's really a blend of
like self-awareness kind of stuff, and mental health and all those pieces.
Absolutely. I mean, really being present. So we're actually also doing a lot of work in like neuroscience of, contemplative neuroscience, how your body, mind, your whole being is impacted by, being present in the moment through meditation, other contemplative aspects. So it's it's a unique experience overall for students. We're definitely a niche, but a really awesome niche, I would say.
Yeah. So Executive Director of Financial Aid, very, very important job in any school. But specifically as you're working through with adult students and you're working with graduate students, and you got to get them the money, right? You got to get them the money, and recruiting is going to bring them in. Financial aid becomes an important part of the process, and it can be very complicated. So talk about that and what you do as an executive director to decomplicate that process. Decomplicate, simplify.
Simplify, that's right.
Only here on the EdUp Experience week. I think I've actually made that word up before, but go ahead.
Well, you're just continuing it now.
Fantastic.
So I'm actually Executive Director of Student Financial Services. So we're
I knew I was going to mess up your title too.
No worries. We're kind of a one-stop of student finance. So it's financial aid, student accounts, and VA education benefits. So that's actually one of the way that we serve our students, is that we try to not have to, if they're coming in with questions, we don't want to pass them from person to person, because that gets really frustrating.
Nailed it.
Especially as you're in the higher ed process, it can feel overwhelming. Even if you're a returning student, even if you've done it before, you've taken a step away for a couple of years, you're coming back, it's like brand new. Yeah. And so we try and meet their needs where they are with one team, one department, so that we can help walk them through. Of course, folks have their own specializations. We all do, but we all are well-versed enough that we can, make sure they get from point A to point B. We also focus a lot on financial literacy, especially for a returning student population.
That's important, right? Because you got to pay it back. You have to understand how much money you're taking from the federal government, so that you don't overloan yourself, right?
Absolutely. And that's especially important for graduate students, because they have a higher borrowing capacity.
That's
then
okay. I slap my mic all the time too. It's fine.
they have a much higher borrowing capacity than undergraduate students. So we really try and focus on financial literacy as well. So when we're bringing students in, we've built tools like budget worksheets that say, okay, here are your direct costs. Here's, you've got your cost of attendance, your indirect costs. We've done our best for that estimate, but it's an estimate.
Right.
Figure out what your costs are, right? What's your rent going to be? What's your food going to be? Do you have things that aren't included as part of that? What additional resources do you have? What does it look like if you work? What does it look like if you borrow this much versus this much, so that you can really fine tune exactly what you may need to borrow, if you don't need to borrow at all. And then we offer our services to talk through those numbers, talk through repayment options. We also still require in-person exit counseling for our graduates.
Ooh.
Right? So in addition to the Department of Ed, we hold sessions. And when I say in person, it's like air quotes, right? Now we do everything via Zoom now as well.
But they have to look at you. They have to talk to somebody on the way out. I think that's important, right? Because it's easy to leave, but you need to know what's going on. Everything that you said is very complex when you're working through financial aid, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much I can borrow when students are typically, if you don't have the services,
what the heck is going on?
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, and you feel this defeatist feeling. So there's a lot of students that will apply for school and never, they even just think about financial aid. It looks complicated and then you never see them again. So if you don't have those step-in services, they can be gone in an instant.
Absolutely.
Talk about your time here at the conference. Why were you here? What was the point of you coming here to Ellucian? What were you hoping to gain?
Absolutely. So we are a relatively new client of Ellucian. So we converted to their colleague platform as colleague SaaS back in the middle of the pandemic. Yep. Quite a challenge, converting your whole student information system, and then also moving to software as a service in general. Anybody in higher education's, it's a hot topic these days.
You could say that.
Yeah, and we came from a very customized system previously, so there was a lot of rethinking of our business processes as we were going through that, and then we've been continuing to just reevaluate all of our business processes moving forward, because of course, right as we were getting ready to implement, the world changed. So that's actually been a big step of growth for us as an institution overall. We've had about 24% enrollment growth
congratulations.
over the past 2 years, 12 year over year. And we attribute that a lot to just constantly rethinking where we are.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
That's right. And so, that's really part of what being here is about, is just learning from your peers. I mean, you learn from the system consultants, et cetera, but you learn the most from having,
the hallway conversations.
The person you're sitting next to in the conference, and they're like, how do you do that? I do it like this. Let's exchange information, right? And we learn how to problem solve together, kind of like co-creating the next step of higher education. And so that's really important to us as an institution, really important to me, especially because I've oversee these multiple departments that work together, and we work really, really close with admissions, which I actually started in working for Joe way back in the day.
Oh my goodness!
Yes, that's
and you're
right.
still in higher ed,
and I'm still in
thank goodness, or else I'd be like, oh God.
That's right.
I wanted to ask you, because you have, like me, experience in the for-profit sector, for-profit higher education, which I think folks can turn their noses down at individuals who come from for-profit, and I've been doing work, in my opinion, I think that is a really, really bad way to look at people who come from the business side of higher education. How have you taken your skill set from for-profit higher ed, and as you've gone to a nonprofit school, what skills have helped you? How do you craft your department? Do you bring those skills that you learned from for-profit into your nonprofit in terms of business and efficiency?
Absolutely. So I've definitely experienced that as well. Even being on hiring committees, folks are like, oh, I don't know. They came from this sector. Are you sure?
Oh, my goodness.
And so I have to remind them, I'm like, same here. But one thing that I found, especially in my world of which is extremely regulated in higher education, is that's right. Is that one thing that for-profits really do is look at their processes continually, and so that's one of the steps that I've brought to Naropa, to the nonprofit sector, because there's like this more comfortable feeling in that sector of, well, we're doing all of the right things, etc. And everybody can always continually learn. So you're under a much greater microscope in the for-profit, proprietary sector. And so I'm used to being under that microscope. So in meetings, I ask the difficult questions. I say, well, what if somebody came in and they asked us this? How do we respond? How
Yes.
are we making sure that we are meeting all of these needs, even if I don't have somebody that's from an outside agency that's asking me,
Yes.
every few weeks. I still take that approach. So it's like, you try to find all of the cracks and the errors, but then you've got to figure out, you don't just stop there and say, well, here are all the problems.
Yep.
Whoops. Then you've got to say, here are the problems and how do we move forward? And
Yep.
so, and that really helps drive all of the next steps for our institution, I
Because
think.
you're thinking about it from a business. By the way, there's a set of tables rolling by now as we hear the clicking. We have it's distracting actually, and I don't get distracted very easily. There's a lot of noise around me.
Sounds like drums, and we're in New Orleans.
Yeah, that was a New Orleans band walking by.
Yeah.
The Department of Ed just released, they might be coming around to come to any kind of school and shop.
That's right.
Thank goodness there are folks like you, Jess, who have those business processes from for-profit that you're used to being under tight regs and process iteration. How is Ellucian helping you help students?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I've really liked the most about the Ellucian platform that we're using has been self-service. And it's just a much easier stop in place for students to come in and see, especially from the financial aid side, as well as the student planning side. So those pieces are really integrated with our student information system. And I like the continual changes they're making, and especially in the financial aid side of the house. Michelle Taylor, their product owner, has really listened to feedback from folks. We need this type of document upload, we need this type of encryption, we need to be able to put our students on a communication management track, right?
Epic.
And say, we've got your FAFSA, everything looks good, you've got awards or now an offer letter in quotes, because terminology is changing. But
if you don't know that, right?
Right,
the Department of Ed has guidance.
Offer.
It's an offer letter, not an award letter.
That's right. And now with FAFSA simplification, pretty much everything you knew about terminology has changed.
Yep.
But that's been really great to have like what feels like a real partnership in that aspect, to say this is what our students are looking for, and to turn around and see that built out in future quarters. And we, like I said, we were one of the first SaaS clients for colleagues. So there has actually been a lot of that we have experienced, to say, yes, take away the customization is gone. So now we need configurability. Well, what's missing in what you have that's configurable? I mean, they're learning and growing just like we are as institutions, just like the students that we're serving, right? So it's nice to feel that partnership.
Amazing.
What do we need to know about Naropa University? Anything you want to say about your time, your role, Naropa in general? The open mic is open.
Yeah.
This is how many episodes I've done. My words don't even make sense anymore.
Absolutely. I would say, I mean, we're a really unique school. Definitely check us out, or if you've got questions about what we do, reach out. Or we have contact information on our website. We really believe in lifelong learning, and how this contemplative approach that we're taking can have a really positive impact across the board, not just for what we consider our traditional quote unquote students, but how it impacts us as leaders. We take the time every single semester. Actually, we have a day that's community practice day, where we practice what we preach as an institution. Students, faculty, staff. I mean, our presidents are there, our vice presidents are there, and sitting side by side with our brand new freshman student, or the administrator that's been there for 23 years. And we really think that there's something that's special, unique, and cool about that. So maybe something that you could pick up and take back to your institution, of just how to learn and grow together.
Level up.
Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I have to ask Jess the two final. That was the one before the final question. Oh, my brain. What do you see for the future of higher education, Jess? You've been in it for a long time. What's coming?
I'm actually feeling okay to say I'm not quite sure.
That's good. I'm not either.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see a lot of growing and changing, especially over the next couple of years. We're definitely seeing it in the area of financial services. I mean, this is one of the, the big hot topics.
You sound like me now.
Yeah, I mean, it's simplification is not necessarily simplification, but there are a lot of goals to I think get on the right track, but figuring out how to get there is it's going to be a complicated process. It's going to be kind of like a tango, right, where it's like taking a few steps this way,
That's
going
right.
backwards, spinning around in circles,
falling, getting back up.
Yeah, and so I think that that's what drives a lot of us in higher education. I think I wrote this in a cover letter way back in the day. I don't know if it was for you or for somebody else, but to be in higher education is kind of like you have to be a black diamond skier.
Mhm.
You've got to take your talent and
Such
be
a
able
good
to.
analogy.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be able to hit the moguls, jump, turn, spin, everything all at once and you've got to love it.
Spoken like a true Coloradan, the black diamond skier.
That's right. And you've really got to love it. You've got to lean into it and just accept that that's part of our world, part of our change, and that's where the growth comes from, as hard as it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Jessica Ibrahim. She's the Executive Director of Student Financial Services at Naropa University. Jess, thank you for coming on the podcast today. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.